Hi and welcome back everyone. I am Ingeborg, one of the developers behind the game Nectarmare. I am the person primarily responsible for the level design, and I am here to discuss my experience building the game's levels. When I started building levels for Nectarmare, not all mechanics were finished or conceptualized yet. This meant that I started to build the levels with the mechanics currently existing in mind, expanding to more concepts as new mechanics were added to the game and needed to be implemented. Building and designing the levels was an iterative process where I started with mapping out an idea that then was improved upon and sometimes rearranged as Stanislav and Natalie added graphics to mechanics and switched up the designs of the backgrounds. One of the first levels that I designed was level 2, which is laid out as a cross, starting from the middle. This layout was in the game way before there was any art to represent it, and it was one of the first variations that I could come up with for the base mechanics of the game. Other early levels include level 4, 5 and 8, which started out built for the early game, with only events, spawning dangers, enemy movements and the bee in mind. These levels were after several iterations designed to show off some of the earliest mechanics in the game, such as the bombs, the creeps and the missiles. Level 3 and level 9 were the first levels that I built with moving walls in mind. Later on, these became water-based levels with the moving walls now transformed into dragonflies. Regarding water levels, these went through a couple of iterations, one of which was the implementation of water bubbles. Water bubbles are soft body objects that deform as the player and enemy collide with them. These were tricky visual elements to implement, and we worked to getting them to function like intended for a long time. As we saw the effect soft body objects had on the feel in the water levels, we implemented soft body mechanics on the flying seeds found on other levels as well. As more mechanics were added to the game, I started to build levels to specifically introduce and combine different mechanics with each other. In the beginning, this could take the form of having a turret and a moving wall which caused damage on the same level, a concept that later turned into what can be encountered at level 20, where the eye flower is combined with the centipede. Later on in the project, we knew roughly what all of the dangers would be, except for the fish, which was among the last dangers to get its graphic implementation. In this stage of development, I combined the mechanics to create interesting and challenging variations. To get as many of these as I could, I tried to combine each mechanic with the others at least once. This led to the many combinations seen for the fish, the frogs and the grasshopper. As the dangerous area became the fish, we understood it needed to be placed in water-based levels to work. As a result, some of the levels needed to be redesigned as they had elements associated with other environments in them, for instance the stormy forest or the fields. Due to some of the affected levels' layouts, we needed to construct custom borders and place loose leaves where needed for these levels to make sense now that there was water in them. It also meant replacing soft objects and changing seeds into bubbles. Lastly, I made a couple of levels that were intended for very difficult for late gameplay. These were originally suggested as possible end boss levels, but ended up being difficult endgame content instead. In the game, these levels consist of level 41 to 50 and combine a higher point threshold to get to the next level, with combinations of dangers and mechanics that are extra difficult. I also designed the layouts to increase the difficulty by adding dead ends and passages that could be guarded by an enemy or create choke points where multiple dangers could harm the player at once. During the process of designing the levels in Nectarmare, some ideas were scrapped or changed. Among these was a level where the entire game area was a corridor snaking its way from the top to the bottom of the screen. This became too predictable and cramped, giving the bee too little room to properly maneuver the level, making it frustrating to play. More experienced players could also trick the enemy at this level, making it too easy to win. Overall, the construction of the levels for Nectarmare has evolved over the course of the project from simple to complex, with new layouts and ideas developing as the mechanic was expanded. As I was working with the restriction of never building larger levels than what can fit within the camera frame, I had to think outside the box and be both creative and innovative when it came to making interesting and fun layouts. Thank you for listening. Remember to share, like and subscribe to the channel if you thought this was interesting. To check out the various levels showcased here and more, you can play Nectarmare on Steam, where we also have a free demo available. We also have a version for Android phones and tablets in the works, so keep an eye out for that as well.